والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الخلق أجمعين محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. The subject of fiqh, and we reach to the rules regarding Najasat, issue 136. These are general rules about Najasat, which should be known. In issue 136 said to make the script and pages of Holy Quran najis and violate its sanctity is undoubtedly haram, and it is, if it becomes najis, it should be made tahir immediately with water. In fact, as an obligatory precaution, it is haram to make it najis even if no violation of sanctity is intended, and it is obligatory that it should be made tahir by washing it with water. You see here, if you have a copy of the Holy Quran, and if for a reason or another some najis water or mixed with blood or urine or whatever najasat touch the verses of the Holy Quran, that is whether the Holy Quran which is published, or if you have written it on a paper and that paper has a verse of the Quran, if you throw it in the street, then it might get najis also because it's a paper and might get. So now he put two possibilities here. Sometimes to make it najis is against the sanctity of the Holy Quran. They said that is undoubtedly is haram, because Quran has to be honored and respected. Now he said, suppose it is not against sanctity of the Quran. For example, a machine is najis, but I keep paper of the Holy Quran which will cut it into pieces, for example, but make it najis, for example, but it is not against sanctity because it's cut into pieces, for example. He said, even though if it does not insult the Holy Quran, but still to make it najis is haram. So the general rule and regulation that the writings of the Holy Quran should be always kept as tahir, and if by chance, by mistake, it was in your pocket and then fell on the floor, and on the floor there was some najasat for any reason or another, one has to wash it right away with water and make it clean. Holy Quran should be clean, and if you have one paper which you wrote some ayah of the Holy Quran, you cannot throw it in the garbage where it becomes najis. It should remain tahir, should not be najis, not allowed to make it najis. Issue 137, if the cover of the Holy Quran becomes najis, causing its desecration, the cover should be made tahir by washing it with water. Now we said the writing of the Holy Quran, because that is the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, should be always tahir. Now what about the cover? The cover is not the writing. He said, well, if that is regarded as an insult to the Quran, you are not respecting the Holy Quran, and the cover of the Quran you put some najasat, even that case you have to clean it and wash it with water. Now if sometimes not for any reason, imagine you say, okay, the cover does not have the same rules as the writing of the pages, but if it is usually regarded, and that is usually regarded as an insult, desecration for the Holy Quran, he said we have to clean it, and we are not allowed to do any act which show disrespect to the Holy Quran. Issue 138, placing the Holy Quran on a najas al-ain, like a blood or a dead body, even if it be dry, is haram if the intention is to profane it. Now suppose in the ground there is a blood, but that blood is dry, and we said if it is dry and we put another dry thing on it, the najasat will not be transferred because it should be wet, But he said because that is regarded as an insult and is a profane for the Quran, even that situation is not allowed. We have to deal with the Holy Quran with respect. 139, writing the Holy Quran with najis ink, even one letter of it amounts to making it najis, and if written it should be erased or washed off. Now if we use ink to write the Holy Quran, that ink we have to make sure should not be najis, there should be no wine or let us say alcohol in the ink if the ink has anything like that, or somebody's hand if it is najis and by mistake he put it in the ink, then it become najis. If we write ordinary things but not writing of the Holy Quran, and if we by mistake we wrote with that ink, then we have to wash the paper or remove it completely or wash it so that it become tahir, not najis. 140. If giving the Holy Quran to a non-believer involves its desecration, it is haram to give it to him, and it is obligatory to take it back from him. Now to give it to non-believers, to give the Quran, is it allowed or not? You see, if the non-believer will not insult the Quran, will respect the Quran and will read the Quran, so it is okay. But if you think you will insult the Quran or throw it in the garbage or make it najis, so in that case we are not allowed to give, and if by mistake we give the Quran, we have to take it back from him. Issue 141. If a page from the Holy Quran or any sacred object like a paper on which the names of Almighty Allah or the Holy Prophet or the Holy Imams are written falls in a lavatory, it is obligatory to take it out and make it tahir with water, no matter what expenses it may entail. And if it is not possible to take it out, the use of that lavatory should be discontinued till such time when one is certain that the page has dissolved and petered out. Similarly, if Turbat al-Hussain, the sacred earth of Karbala, usually formed into tablets to place one's forehead on while offering prayer, if Turbat al-Hussain falls into lavatory and it is not possible to take it out, the lavatory should not be used until one becomes sure that it has ceased to exist and no trace of it is present there. Now two things. You see, if a paper with the Holy Quran in my pocket, and from my pocket it fell in the lavatory. Now the lavatory, modern lavatory, it will remain there, so we have to take it out right away and wash it. But if we flush it and it goes to a place in the cities or the villages, usually it is one pit and the lavatory is open to a pit, not like here there are a sewerage system which will take it, the sewerage, and will be mixed. It is a pit. So he said in that pit we have to take it out, even if we have to let us say destroy the lavatory, open it to make an opening, and some people will go inside the pit and take the paper out. It may cost a lot of money, but still you are not allowed. If you cannot for any reason, then you are not allowed to use that lavatory, because whenever you go to toilet, again more and more najis things will be added there, so it's not allowed, till such time, after, let us say, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, when no part of that paper remains, then you say, okay, now nothing remained and is not there. We said the same thing if the turban that we use, the tablet we use to put our forehead at time of the prayer, if it is taken from land of Karbala, that is why I said Turbat al-Hussain, the tablet which is brought from the city of Imam Hussain from Karbala, because of respect to Karbala and to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, if it by mistake fell down in the lavatory, has to be taken out and cleaned by any possible way. We have to take it out and to wash it and make it clean. We are not allowed to make it najis. Issue 142. It is haram to eat or drink or make others eat or drink something which has become najis. However, one may give such thing to a child or an insane person, and if a child or an insane person eats or drinks najis thing on his own accord, or mix food najis with his najis hands before consuming it, it is not necessary to stop him from doing so. You see, if we have najis food, for a reason or another, somebody has, let us say, blood, and when he hit his spoon, some blood was there, and he put it in the curry, for example, and then later on he realized there is a blood and then become najis, Or a child came from the toilet, his fingers are najis, put it in the food, and the food all become najis. He said that food we are not allowed to eat because it is najis, and we should eat something tahir. But if it is given to a child, for the child there is no haram and halal, still he is a child, or some insane person, then it is okay. And if the child himself took a food which is najis, I mean his fingers are najis and he used his fingers, it is not obligatory to prevent him. It is good to do it, but not obligatory. Of course, always is good that the fingers and the hand to be clean and tahir, and is recommended to wash our hand before food, etc. I mean, all these are recommended things, but it is not obligatory. If you want to prevent the child from that, fine, it is okay, but if we feel that the food is wasted and let the child eat the food, still that is possible. It's not obligatory to prevent the child from eating that najis food. Issue 143. To sell or lend a najis thing which can be made tahir has no objection, but the buyer or the borrower must be told about it, particularly in the following two situations. That if he is not informed, he might contravene the law of Shariat, like if he wants to eat or drink it, otherwise it is not necessary to inform. Second, that the buyer or the borrower will pay heed to the advice. If one knows that it will have no effect, it will not be necessary to tell him. Now, for those who are doing business, he has certain food which is najis, either because contents are najis or contamination najis or whatever it is, or you have food which is najis and a guest come to you. I like to give that to the guest, and said no, you are not allowed to sell it to people in the market. And if you sell it to the market, you have to tell the person that this is najis. Be careful about it. But he said always, or when it contravenes Shariat. He said if it is food to be eaten, yes, it is haram to eat. But sometimes a piece of cloth, which is not, he is not going to eat that, but he's going to dress it. And if he doesn't know it is najis, his prayer is all right. His prayer will not be affected if he does not know it is najis. So here may not be necessary. Of course, najasul ayn, the original impurity, cannot be sold. These has no value, and we cannot take money of it. To sell urine or stool or blood or dead animal is not allowed. Has no value, and you cannot sell it. But the question here is about mutanajjis, that you have a cloth and or food, you want to sell it to people, you have to inform. So it said two conditions. If he is using it in a way that will contravene Shariat, so not allowed, because he's going to eat without knowing that it is najis, and he should not eat a najis thing. Secondly, he should listen to you. If he is careless, if you tell him this is najis or tahir, he will not care. He is so careless person, he will not think about it. So here he said it's of no use to tell him and make no difference. Issue 144. If a person sees someone eat or drink something najis or pray with a najis dress, it is not necessary to admonish him. See, somebody is not aware that in this restaurant the food is not tahir, and he goes and he wants to eat. Should I tell him that the food here is najis? Is it obligatory upon me? No. If he doesn't know and I don't want to tell him, it is okay now. If I tell him and he abstains, that's up to him, but it's not wajib. If I discovered this brand of bread is najis, it is obligatory that I tell all the people not to take that. You say no, it's not obligatory. If the people do not know it is najis, for them is halal to eat that food. So for them is all right. So why you tell them? You want to tell them, okay, but it's not wajib, not obligatory upon you to tell the people. So issue 145, if a place or carpet of a man's house is najis, and if he sees that the wet body or dress of his visitor will touch the najis thing, since it is he who is responsible, therefore he should inform the visitor, provided the two situations mentioned in Rule 143 obtain. Now, if I have a sofa set, for example, or a carpet, and it is wet, and I know it is wet because of urine of a child, not water. A guest comes and he sits there, and then his dress will be najis and his hand will be najis. If he perform wudu, his wudu will be batil because he is not aware of najasat. So here it says, because I am responsible of that, I should tell him that this is najis. He said with the two conditions mentioned above, So I should tell him that it is najis. If he is careless, the guest, so I don't need to tell him. Or if the najasat will not contradict his religious duties, then still it is not necessary to tell him. So he said with the two conditions mentioned at the issue 143. The two, he said that he is not informed, he might contravene the law of Shariat. So if he might contravene, you have to tell him. If not, then not necessary to tell him. Issue 146, if the host comes to know during the meals that the food is najis, he should inform the guests about it. But if one of the guests becomes aware of it, it is not necessary for him to inform others about it. However, if his dealings with the other guests are such that he himself may become najis or be involved in najasat, if they became najis, he should inform them. You see, the owner of the house has different duty than the guest. So if an owner of the house who is serve food to people, the food has to be tahir. So if at the middle he knew for a reason or another that the food is najis, he should inform the guest. But if some guest noticed that someone, his hand is najis, he put it in the food, is it wajib, obligatory for him to tell other guests? He said, no, not obligatory to tell them. But if it reaches such a situation that he himself also will eat of that najis thing, so he should tell them so that they abstain and make the food tahir or take it out and bring another food tahir so that neither he nor other guests will eat. But only guests, if they are eating, he said, it is not wajib for you to tell them. For them it is tahir because they don't know, so it is not wajib for you to tell them. Issue 147, if a borrowed object becomes najis, the borrower must inform the owner, provided the situations mentioned in Rule 143 is observed. Some people used to borrow the dress of others, because they need to go and they borrow a dress, or they borrow the watch, for example, or car of somebody, and then you return it back. Then if it becomes najis, then you have to inform the person that this is najis. Supposedly the two conditions are fulfilled. That if you do not inform him, he may do an act which will contravene Shariat. And if he is careful about it, if he is careless, he said is not necessary. So again, if you borrow something and when you return it back, you think it will affect the guest and it will contradict Shariat by his activities, his hand, let us say, will be najis, and then his wudu will be batil because of najasat and all that, then you should inform him. Otherwise, it is not obligatory to inform him. Issue 148, If a child says that a thing is najis or that he has washed and made it tahir, his word should not be accepted. But if he is about to attain the age of puberty and assures that he has washed and made it tahir, his word should be accepted if the thing is normally in his charge and if he is reliable. You see how to treat the child. Now, if an adult Muslim tell you this is najis or tahir, then you accept it. Or if a plate is najis and then the owner of the house is adult, he took it to the kitchen and brought it back and put it in front of you as a show that it is tahir, okay, you can accept his word. Because he's a Muslim, he is careful. So when he took it to the kitchen, he washed it and he brought it back. But if a child says that, is what the child says is reliable and you have to follow that? He said no, it is not necessary. And if something najis, if a plate is najis taken, you tell the child go and wash it. He go and come back and you don't know whether he washed it or not, then you are not assuring. You know it was najis and now you have no proof it became tahir because he is a child and the child cannot be trusted. But he said if this child is not very small child, is at the age of 13, 14, just at near puberty age, and if what he says will assure you that he is a child who is not cheating, not lying, and this child is reliable, so you can trust what he said, then in that case you can trust him. So he put a condition that if first of all that plate or that spoon or that is in his charge, usually it is at his house, and if what he says is reliable and his age is such, he is not at puberty but almost at the age of puberty, and you get assurance of it, of what he says, you trust him, then you can take his word as granted and work accordingly that the plate must have been washed. Otherwise you cannot blindly say that it was washed, because he's not adult to be responsible. I think it's sufficient up to here to continue inshallah in the next session. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ahli baytihi at-tahirin. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali